hello. Do we just launch into it? And they're like, how did they come together? They just kind of, hello. So first, tell me your story. How did you come to the job you have now, and what job do you have now?
So I've been at McLaren 8 years.
Wow.
It's been an incredible time to be custodian of the brand. Prior to that, I actually worked in corporate world. I was at Vodafone, who were then partner of McLaren for obviously a piece of time. So I'd always kind of been in and around the world of motorsport, let's say, over that period of time. And then I always had a love of sport, actually, and my degrees in sports science and psychology. So I've kind of always stuck within the sports world in one way or other. And then I think the opportunity that afforded itself through Formula One that came around, obviously the sport's grown, and I've been lucky enough to grow in my role in that time too.
If I hypothesize that telling your stories to a new female fan is different than telling stories to either your legacy fan base or male fans.
There's a huge difference. I mentioned the avid fan and the trend fan, and I think from the trend audience that's coming into Formula One now, they're kind of the biggest, that's seen the biggest increase in fandom over the last couple of years. 1 in 3 fans came into the sport in the last 4 years, which is kind of quite staggering, isn't it?
It's really staggering.
And of that, we have a high proportion of women coming into it. In fact, our female fan base has tripled since 2017. So combine all that together, right? That's it's a brilliant challenge and opportunity to have. I guess when we're speaking to our female fans, I think we're very lucky because I think beyond motorsport, we have depth and breadth in our storytelling. But our female fan base kind of like the skew and actually like the cultural relevance and digging into different worlds around Formula One. Perhaps not always what's happening on track, and it's not always about winning for them, but actually they love the cultural references, the adjacency to other sports, which we sometimes link into, which is really exciting. And I think that's where we've seen really, really great success when we start to storytell in those areas.
So for a product or a series of products where big moments have sort of the tent poles of the marketing calendar, how do you think about what channels are most effective as you sort of connect those tentpole moments and sort of hold on to the excitement and the literal adrenaline that happens at those events?
So maybe I'll reflect on our Senna campaign, which, in case you missed it, it was at the Monaco Grand Prix. We decided it was a special year. It's 30 years since Senna's passing. And as a team, we kind of felt we afforded the right to celebrate that in a really positive way, actually, at Monaco. Senna was crowned the King of Monaco, and he won more times with McLaren than any other constructor. And obviously, we respected that moment in Imola, which was about his passing. And then as we hit the track in Monaco, we swapped out our entire livery on our race cars. So obviously, our papaya, iconic papaya colour is now very much associated with the brand. But we swapped both cars out, and it's tough swapping out an entire livery. And obviously at the heart of everything we do in marketing, it can't affect performance.
Right.
So the primary objective and how we went about this was always governed by the race team, and they were very good, they were very collaborative, but to do it was big, and it was audacious. We pulled it off, thankfully. And it wasn't just the 2 race cars, it was also Oscar and Lando's overalls, and then also our team kit. I think going into that weekend, we had an incredible share of voice, buzz around the team, and lots of new fans as well following us. It's actually been our most successful performing campaign ever that we've run.
Congratulations.
We're still kind of compiling all the data and getting it in. So it was the opportunity there was to connect that fan base with this kind of heritage story, but do it in a relevant way. And that is kudos to our incredible team, because they made sure that those stories were relevant across the channels that we were pushing out that content.
So you talked about how important it is for you to partner with different parts of your organization in order to make sure that the marketing supports performance. And obviously there are all kinds of logistics, things that need to be taken care of in the background. one of the dialogues that we've been having here with CMOs is how important it is for CMOs to work across their colleagues and build kind of a web of influence and camaraderie. Does that feel relevant to you or your world, and do you feel like you hold some of that responsibility to do that?
We did a whole piece of work really coming out of 2017, reevaluating who we were as a brand. And actually just a couple of years ago, we really looked at how we were talking about ourselves, both internally and externally. And that led into a kind of repositioning of the brand. And what was really exciting was our executive team, obviously led by Zach Brown, but also our team principal, Andrea Stella. We really got together to look at how the brand informed and helped position the right culture. And over the last 18 months, we've made huge inroads, I think, as a team into a high-performance culture. And I think the role of marketing and brand has been communicating both internally and externally the incredible powerful asset that we've got in that brilliant culture right now. And I think, obviously, you've seen, hopefully on track, we've seen that performance. And if you speak to any of the team right now, it feels very, very real that we're in this kind of transition and change. And fundamentally, that team of people is the same people that we had last year. But actually what's different is their culture and their mindset about how we go about doing things. So it feels really exciting. So I think to your point, I felt very much part of that positioning up front, and certainly felt like I had a good seat around the table to have those discussions, for sure.
When you talk, I think some of the metrics you mentioned that really bring to life your high performance brand. So the traction you've had with new audiences, the traction you've had with women audiences. Most brands would envy that kind of growth a lot.
Yeah.
If you were to give advice to marketers that maybe are outside of the sporting world but looking for transformational growth like that, what advice would you give them?
One of the things that we really embraced through this cultural change was that high performance culture that our race team use. So if I say to you that after every race debrief, the team sit round, they debrief, they look at what worked well, but they spend more time focusing on what we could have done better. And that doesn't mean it's kind of not energizing for the team. We don't, we still celebrate success. And then the second thing to that is, I think, test and learn, test and learn. When we put a car out on track and we have upgrades, it has been through multiple millions of simulations, literally millions of simulations of how that piece is going to perform on track. So when we put content out, make sure we've done our due diligence, we have all this data. So really using it, I think, to make us more agile and be able to do those things at scale.
The journey you've been on is really inspiring. If you think, I'm not sure what else you can go to do. So I'm going to ask you a question about the future, and I'm thinking to myself, what's she going to be like? Well,
Oh, no, we're not done yet. We have heaps more to do.
So if I fast forward 12, 18 months, what would you like to look back and say, yep, we did that?
So I think, like many brands, we are on a digital transformation. We have a heap of work to do in that space. And I think now we've started it, but I think becoming hyper-focused on being able to build trust with our fans through that 360 fan view and making sure that more and more of our communications and content is focused for them. And we've started it, but I think there's a big opportunity there. What's really exciting is, I think, brands, rights holders see the power in the opportunity which sports brings. I think that making that connection with fans and consumers at a time when media fragmentation, there's polarization, I think sport has the ability to transcend all of that and actually unite people and have some fun.
Thank you so much, and thank you.
Thank you.